Hey, this is James Arnold Taylor, voice actor, the voice of Yabba Dabba Doo, Fred Flintstone,
Johnny Test, who's 11 years old and totally awesome,
Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Tidus from Final Fantasy X. Oh, yes, and of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It wouldn't be Coffee with Kenobi without yours truly. The Force is strong here indeed.
What I love about Star Wars fans is that they are the most dedicated, the most creative. I mean, look at that one right there.
You don't have to be a fan of Star Wars or know about it to fall in love with these characters and this story and have just a rip-roaring time.
With Star Wars fans, I love their passion. They are the biggest energy boost. The adventure's for them. It's for everyone. They already live it, and they're just awesome.
They're going to love this because it is harkening back to the original trilogy. Great for the whole family and a perfect introduction into the Star Wars universe.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi, your family-friendly, spoiler-free Star Wars podcast, where intelligent conversation and a splash of humor bring fans together from across the galaxy. I'm your host, Dan Zare, educator and Star Wars author. Whether you are a lifelong Jedi Master or just hopped off your first Star Cruiser, grab your cap and join us as we explore the mythology, philosophy, and wonder of a galaxy far, far away. One conversation at a time. Coffee with Kenobi is more than a podcast. It's a community. Together we celebrate the people, stories, and experiences that make Star Wars so special, creating a space where fans can come together and share their voices. Thank you to the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi, MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. Check out coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel for a no-cost, no-obligation quote, and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zare sent you. We've got a fabulous show for you today. It is part one of our lengthy review of the new Star Wars film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. I am joined by Tom Gross, Cory Clubb, and Jedi News' James Burns. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite mug, and let's have Coffee with Kenobi. Hello, friends. This is the way to intelligent Star Wars conversation with a splash of humor. I am your host, Dan Zare, host of Coffee with Kenobi, and it is time, finally, after 7 long years, to talk about a brand new Star Wars movie. Round of applause for a brand new Star Wars movie, everyone. I am joined by not one host, not two hosts, but 3 guest co-hosts because we got a lot to discuss. Let's start it off with the number one Grogu fan and all the planet Earth, Mr. Tom Gross from Teachers in the Dungeon.
Hello. Yes, hello, everybody. Great to be here. Oh, yeah, I suspect my little guy is going to come up a couple times tonight.
I imagine that as well. Tom, also the co-host of CWK Pour-Over. And speaking of CWK Pour-Over, we have the other host of that podcast, and he's also, by the way, the co-creator of this program you're listening to, Mr. Cory Clubb.
Yes, excited to be here after 7 long years of a drought. Yes, looking forward to this.
Also joining us, he was my co-pilot on our incredible experience in Hollywood to see the red carpet premiere of Star Wars: The Mandalorian and Grogu. He is the granddaddy of Jedi news and just all-around lovely gentleman, Mr. James Burns.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well.
We are doing well, and we are all excited to talk about this. Let's do what we always do. The movie has done well so far at the box office, and it's certainly been a mixed bag, but that's pretty much the same thing with anything popular culture anymore, so I don't know how much stock I put into that. Let's see what we all think. Tom, let's start with you. Give me one word to describe The Mandalorian and Grogu and your overall thoughts.
My one word is I never get super creative with this, but I'm just going to go with what was on my mind. Blast. Because I had a blast, and there were lots of blasts in this movie. This film was my first impression this film was exactly what I expected from a Mandalorian movie for myself. Explosive opening, using all the tools at his disposal, a fighting ring, space fights, intrigue, and then, of course, there's a little bit of Grogu, my buddy, in there, and just thoroughly enjoyed his part of the story, his being Grogu's part of the story. So so yeah, I had a blast, and that's my word.
Excellent. James, what about you? One word and overall kind of reactions.
Fantastic. Good fun film. The perfect popcorn summer blockbuster. It worked incredibly well. I think they did a good job at gauging the film so it worked for those that are seasoned Mandalorian fans of the Disney Plus show, and for those that are brand new to it, they could come in and just pick up without any back knowledge, which I think was very much needed in this particular case.
All right, yes, because of course the Mandalorian and Grogu, very well known to fans of Disney Plus and subscribers, but to the general populace, if they have not seen that show, they might have some questions, which is why Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni created it in this fashion. Cory, what about you? One word and overall reactions.
I'm going to break the rules slightly. I'm going to use 2 words and say "good baby." This was, just like you guys said, a summer bombastic blast to kick off the summer season. I think that this is perfect for families, fans of all ranges. It just really gets people excited for Star Wars again. Are there some things that are not so as keen, I guess, as we've seen other Star Wars things? Sure, I'm sure you can pick it apart. But all in all, I think it's a blast to go to the movie theater again, have some fun, and just be along for the ride.
As you're saying that, Tom is literally drinking from the most adorably obnoxious coffee mug I've ever seen.
Yeah,
come on, I love it.
Oh,
it says Star Wars in the back. Clever.
What about you, Dan?
My word is I have so many words to say about this film. I'm just going to go with fun. I'll just say it's fun. This is a fun movie that I have a very dichotomous point of view on, because on the one hand, I think it's tremendous fun. There were a lot of smiles, a lot of joy, a lot of laughter. And on the other side, I think it is static, dull, and unimportant. Safe. Yes, is probably the word. So we're going to have a huge range probably of emotions about it. But let's tackle this. Let's look at the things that really kind of melted our hearts and just made us want to buy Grogu coffee mugs. Tom, what are some things you loved about the movie?
Well, let's start
specifically, and of course, there will be spoilers in case anyone was unfamiliar. Yes, so go right ahead.
Let's just start with Grogu, if you don't mind, since you came to me first.
Absolutely. He's a major character.
He is, and that's what I loved about this. When we last talked, Dan and Cory, on Pour-Over, my biggest concern of the movie was that maybe Grogu would be overdone. They would try too hard to make him something that he wasn't. I didn't get that experience at all. And I figured he would have a moment sometime where we would get to explore Grogu. I didn't expect it the way it happened. So, and it's in probably about 3/4 through the movie, he gets time alone when Mando is poisoned by the dragon snake. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed that. That is the only reason why I went back for a second viewing. I really just wanted to see that sequence when Grogu cares for Mando. He explores on his own. He makes an ally, creates his own hut that looked remarkably familiar, meditates, he heals, he hides, he cares for Mando, all while being as cute as ever, which to me was the smallest part about it. I'd already gotten my oohs and ahs out for Grogu by the time this whole thing started. And so I really felt the growth in him. This all revolves around that whole theme that Mando has to care for him. The huts, you're gonna be gone and he's going to be by himself and we're gonna take him. How many times have we heard that? He's shoulder candy and he's in danger. And this whole scene tells us that's not the case. That Grogu is going to be able to manage on his own and build his own identity, or one that seems to be inbred in him. I mean, when he picks up that piece of wood and starts walking with a cane, I feel sorry for my family and the people in my vicinity, because I let everybody know how much I loved that. I just thought that was the moment. And so I guess to wrap up on my point on Grogu is just that theme of independence really, I felt, came out here. And he was more than just shoulder candy. He is, as you said, Dan, he is a character. And I feel like they gave it everything, in my mind, everything that he needed.
The first time when he shows up and he jumps out from behind that corner and he uses the Force to take that what are they calling it? The snow mouse droid? What do they call it, James? Is that what?
Yeah, snow mouse droid, yeah.
Yeah. And he dismantles it, and then he very adeptly takes care of business. That was a thrilling entrance for Grogu. I'll just say my stuff. James, tell me something. Should we just all talk about Grogu now? Yeah, we can be specific. Cory, you were about to say something, I can tell.
I mean, like Tom said, you mentioned in our preview of the movie, you said don't let it overly Grogu itself, and it didn't. I think it really balanced it really well. I was really appreciative of the fact that he wasn't just there for fun and giggles. He brought a sense of humor, which was great. Also, he seemed to be eating every take as well. So I feel like he's munching on something and trying to steal a little of this, a little of that, and it's delightful. It's just delightful to see that and bring that into more of a serious maybe conversation the characters are having or whatnot, or him doing things. But then, like you said, the independence I felt was really interesting. Is earned, I guess, right? To that end, the sense of you needed something to balance out the Mando's action. These quiet, sweet moments of him preparing the hut and buying the food and all the things that he was capable of. And I would have liked to have seen more Force moves with him, because I feel like he's a little more adept in the Force by now. Mm-hmm. He's moving little small objects, but also he's moving big objects. So I was it's kind of not necessarily all that. I felt it was a little bit just use it when you want to use it type of thing, and I feel like it could have been somehow balanced out for that. But other than that, I mean, I think he was a great part of this movie. I'm glad that he is in the title of the movie as well. It makes sense. He earned that spot as well. And it's the zeitgeist of popular culture. I mean, he is this era's Yoda. He really is. And I think that that's what's exciting about him too. I think they don't let him be a side character or just to add on. He's definitely earned his spot. We get that at the very end as well. He takes his front seat and jumps the ship to hyperspace, which was really cool.
James?
It's actually more pivotal than that. I would actually liken him to the Ahsoka of this sort of generation of Star Wars characters. Because if you think about the Clone Wars movie that came out in 2008 rather, the introduction was Ahsoka, was young Ahsoka. And then obviously we've seen her grow and blossom over the series of the Clone Wars, and then in Rebels, and now through the Mandoverse. And I think it's pretty much the same with Grogu. We saw him at the end of the first season of The Mandalorian, and he's grown and learned how to do more. Hasn't learned to talk quite yet, but he has evolved. I think we learned this week that he's actually slightly taller than when we first saw him. So he has actually grown in height, as well as probably his belly from the amount of food he eats. I thought that was a little bit overdone, personally. I think a little less of that. I think the bit when Rotta was feeding him went on a bit too long. It was funny, the first couple of things that Rotta throwed him, but after that, it just got a little bit too much. I love the bit when he's in the arena and he's eating the popcorn from Galaxy's Edge. I think that was beautifully done, very subtle.
Mix.
For those that know. And I loved his interactions with the Anzellans. I thought that was done incredibly well, and just brought a huge amount of lighthearted humor to the film. And so I enjoyed all of that. And I think he was used in a way that did move the story further along, and he was used sparingly. And I think we definitely had the right amount of Grogu. I think more would have detracted from where he was at the end of the story. And I loved those, that 20-minute segment where he's on his own and he is becoming, in essence, the father figure for all of us that are sandwich generation, where we've grown up where our parents look after us and then we end up looking after our parents.
Mm-hmm.
That was beautiful to see, and I think that was a really, really nice message. And
Din Djarin acknowledges that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we learned from when Jon Favreau introduced the film at the premiere, is that his dad took him to see Star Wars in 1977, and he's a filmmaker predominantly because of that experience. And then almost 50 years later, he's sitting and watching the premiere with his own dad and having that full circle moment. And I think we're seeing a lot of these parallels play out within The Mandalorian. We know that, his children went off to college at one point, and that was likened to Grogu going off and training with Luke. So we're seeing all of these manifestations of his own journey as a father play out within The Mandalorian and now on the big screen.
Yeah, well, very well said. And that I found that particularly endearing when Favreau mentioned that in the theater right before the movie started as well. I thought Grogu was used to perfection in this too. There was a part of me that thought, I wonder if it's just called The Mandalorian and Grogu just to draw attention to Baby Yoda, so to speak. But that wasn't the case at all. He was equally important to The Mandalorian. He clearly showed people who maybe weren't familiar with him, besides just in toy aisles and as a plush or what have you, that he's a pivotal character, that he's got some interesting things, that he's incredibly charming. I like the puppetry work in this is perfection. I mean, this ILM, and I believe Dave Filoni directed all the stuff with the puppets, was so cool and so profound. And you forget that Grogu isn't actually a real character. Or not that he's not actually a real entity, like a real organic being.
Yeah.
And there's some brilliance in that does harken back to, of course, Yoda with Frank Oz performing as him in The Empire Strikes Back, and then a little bit less in Return of the Jedi. That was so cool. This isn't a negative, but I had felt that especially through season 3 of The Mandalorian and the first season of the Book of Boba Fett, the 6th, 7th, and 8th episodes, Grogu had already learned how to take care of himself. He flies the Naboo starfighter around the galaxy to try to recruit Bo-Katan to save Mando when he's captured at the end of season 3's first episode or season 2's episode of The Mandalorian. He's already done plenty of things like that. He actually pacifies the Rancor in the Book of Boba Fett in the finale of that series, or that season. Maybe a series, I guess time will tell. And he's already shown he can do all of these things. So if anything, I feel like they almost lessened his Force abilities in this episode, and it's sort of not really fully acknowledged how much he had grown in season 3 as far as his strength with the Force, training with Luke Skywalker for an undisclosed amount of time. But that's just a minor little kind of a quibble. It's not even a canonical error. It's just who knows how much he's in practice. We do see him meditating on that tree. But the one challenge for me is that, yes, we see him get that Gaffney stick, which is adorable. But the challenge, I guess, for that one was that like he's not Yoda, but now suddenly he needs to use a cane like Yoda? I mean, I'm sure that was just a charming Easter egg, and I don't have a problem with it at all.
But it navigated a jungle.
Well, yeah. That's true. That's true. But it's still interesting that they would do that to compare him to Yoda, but still go out of the way to say, no, he's actually not Yoda, which they don't really do. It might confuse people.
A couple things. I think about Grogu quite a bit, not in a weird way, but just I do think about his character quite a bit. And I wondered if he picked up that stick because he'd seen it before. He knew Yoda, and so maybe he just thought that would be an appropriate thing to do. The second comment I had was on the use of the Force, because I definitely noted that. They introduced it with the extra the snow mouse droid.
Mm-hmm.
But I wondered if they didn't use it as much because of the new audience to these characters, and they didn't want to overuse Grogu's use of the Force, because then you have a lot of people who don't know. Okay, like my family. My family went never of seeing a single episode of The Mandalorian or Boba Fett, and they might have been a little overwhelmed at how does Baby Yoda
he's
use
so small.
the Force so much. And I don't know. I might be thinking way too deeply into that. But
he does it later.
I like
Rota,
that.
though.
I noted it.
I like that.
He does it later with Rota, though, to save Rota from the snake.
True.
Yeah,
true.
And that's I would say Rota's probably, well, Rota's obviously smaller than the Rancor that we see in the Book of Boba Fett, but I would say that they're probably, you could compare the two.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it in the first season he stops that giant rhinoceros too? So I think the size of the being
that's in episode 2.
Episode 2. Okay, so
a child.
I feel like he can do it. It's just not overly used, right? Let's let's start stopping everything, you know.
But he's also weaker when he did it then, and after he trains with Luke, then he doesn't get exhausted.
Yeah, he gets his
that's very true. Because he was exhausted when he's done it previously, and here he just carried on as normal afterwards.
Right, and he's not like Palpatine or Yoda or Luke in their later days. So it all tracks. I don't think there's anything canonically inconsistent with that. Although, like I said, maybe a little less powerful in some ways, but that could have been a story design, and that's not something I would necessarily quibble with. He was very, very fun, and every time he was on the screen, and James, like it was me, and then Mason, and then James was on Mason's other side. We smiled the whole time.
And speaking of smiling, can I tell you how happy I am that we spent so much time talking about that guy, that little guy? But it's probably time to move on, right, Dan?
Well, he's going to come up a lot, but James. I started off Tom talking about Grogu, and I want to save some of the things that maybe didn't work as well for the second half of the show, but still focusing on the positives. I know you and I spent a lot of time talking with each other and also with the composer Ludwig Göransson.
Yes.
About the score. Let's talk about that score.
Score was absolutely incredible. John Williams had an amazing ability to create themes for characters and for places that we've visited over the years, not just in Star Wars, but whether it be Potter or any of the other, the plethora of scores that he's created. And Ludwig's come along and has been able to do the same thing. And we've not necessarily heard it before in The Mandalorian because of the way that the show is. But here, with a bigger budget, more time, we know that Ludwig spent a lot of time on set, exploring what was going on, understanding the script. And the songs that he's composed and created fit perfectly into the worlds that we see on screen. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's absolutely incredible. And if anybody has the answer to this, please share, in that I'm hoping that it's able to be nominated for an Oscar. I'm not sure it is, though, because this is a derivative of a TV show, and sometimes the Academy doesn't allow derivatives of TV shows to go on for Oscars. So it'd be interesting to see whether the soundtrack is able to go that way. I'm honestly not sure.
I think it's more of a question of when it's come out, because usually the Oscars nominations are until like January or February.
Yeah, but there are other rules as well. But we'll find out in due course, I'm sure. But Shikari, that synthesizer and the change of pace fit, the music fits so well. And I just love the way that it's introduced and it's carried through the whole film, no matter which location we go to. And I just think it's done incredibly well. And I don't know whether any of you have listened to the soundtrack since. I've listened to it a few times. It really, really feels like a Star Wars soundtrack in every sense.
I couldn't agree more. I thought the things you're describing there, just the way I would encapsulate that is I really feel like he did an exploration of sound in addition to the music. And he really found some classic sci-fi sounds in some of those pieces of music, as well as some things that are really unique to the score itself. I think it's a marvelous piece outside of the film. But then after the first viewing and the second, I really paid attention to where the music is happening and when and how. It's so well done on all levels.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's one of the strong points of this film in general. I think they do a great job of making it feel Star Wars, but its own Star Wars, right? You mentioned John Williams being like the top tier of soundtracks, and I think, how do you come in and do this? But then Ludwig has done it through all the seasons of Mandalorian and then carried it into the film itself. And I don't get tired of it, right? That's the other thing too, is I don't feel like, oh, I've heard this before. I'm humming it on the way out to my car as I leave the theater, right? Like, we're all like humming the theme and it gets stuck in your head, but not in a bad way. It feels right. And like, I think John Favreau had said in an interview, like, he takes it to a level that's beyond, like, you didn't know it could get even better, and he does that. And I think that's just to his talent and to the fact that, like, it worked very hard. All these creators worked very hard to bring this to fruition. And I would say that same feeling around the animation and the visual effects, practical effects, all that stuff just mixed so well. I couldn't tell anything apart, from puppetry to CGI to using the volume. And so it's like, it just was blended perfectly, and the music just heightened everything for me.
Well, when the night before the premiere, James and I and a very small group of people got to go into this private courtyard and get to see some of the collection and the props and models and things used in the film. And the soundtrack was playing in the background. And we hadn't heard it before. Right. And I noticed it, and I'm like, well, this is like kind of a cool, funky style of music that's almost like I don't even know how to describe it, like almost like Middle Eastern, I guess. At the end, and then the end credits, when you hear a different variation of the Mandalorian theme in that style, I thought, my gosh, this just works any way, shape, or form. It will probably be a disco version at some point. I sort of hope not, but I also kind of do. I think that'd be fun. And it really adds so much atmosphere. And in many ways, narratively, I think the music does a lot of the heavy lifting when the exposition is light. You talked about that. I didn't realize those 20-minute scene where Grogu is basically by himself and there are no human beings on screen. A lot of the power and the emotion, because Grogu doesn't orate, is done through Goranson's score, and it's very, very effective. All right, Cory.
Incredibly well.
It very, very much did. And I don't know if you've seen the vinyl itself, but it's Mandalorian helmet.
Oh, nice.
Well, there's two. So they've done a 10-inch Mandalorian helmet vinyl, which has just got the Mandalorian theme on one side and the Shikari song on the other. And then the actual vinyl, the original soundtrack, comes out on June 5th, both in the US and around the world.
Okay. That is very cool. Very good to know. Cory, we've talked about Grogu. We've talked about the score. Let's talk about the Mandalorian and any other characters. Tell me what you kind of made of them and how much you enjoyed them in this film.
You know, it's funny because we talked about the preview of this movie, you guys doing the red carpet event. You can talk to Brandon Wayne and his involvement in the film. And I couldn't help but just envision a space cowboy going to work and doing his thing. I was overjoyed with the Mandalorian and the action. It was stylistic. It was, like Tom said, he used all his gadgets along the way. It was just very cool. I felt like a John Wick in Star Wars, if you will. I mean, taking out stormtroopers in the beginning there, and just the smartness of, getting through all the obstacles and whatnot. And it was just so cool to see him use his wits and whatnot along the way as he was stripped of his armor and of his gadgets and weapons and things. He was able to outwit the creatures, outsmart the gangsters, and just do everything. It was so cool to see that and not feel like I didn't know there was someone underneath the mask there doing those actions. And it was all practical to the most extent that I could tell. He's fighting the CGI robots at the door. Creatures are robots where they were that were sitting there, and it was just so cool to see him do all these things and just be action. I think sometimes it can slow it down, and he's a man of few words as well. So I think everything he was saying was right in character. He never changed necessarily. But I was just happy to see him on screen doing things we've seen kind of from season 1 and season 2 of Mandalorian. I think I felt like we're a lot more talking, if I remember correctly, in season 3. Not a lot of action from Mando, but I think that this was a perfect place to display all that. And like you said, cool to see new fans come in and see this and just be like, whoa, this character's awesome. Like, this is not Boba Fett. I think a lot of people think that, oh, this is the Boba Fett show, or he looks like Boba Fett. No, not all. He's cemented completely as his own character in Star Wars now. I feel like you could probably mistake Boba Fett from Mandalorian now because he's so popular, so iconic now, and what he's doing. So I thought that all the action was fantastic. I thought that the action sequences were all perfect. Again, I couldn't love it more. Now, like you said, the other side of things, there was, I think, some room for growth as the character needed to have growth in this film.
And we'll get to that for sure.
And we'll get to that, sure. I'll pause there. But I think that's one thing was lacking for me, I guess, with the character.
Absolutely. I think the opening sequence is the best part of the movie. The scene where is it on Hoth? Is it on Hoth? I guess.
Supposedly. Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly. I don't know that we've actually heard yet. So, Icy Planet. There are several icy planets in Star Wars that we could certainly discuss. But that entire sequence and the build, it felt more like a horror movie where he was the monster and the Imperials were scared of him, which is kind of appropriate in a movie with Sigourney Weaver. And the way he sneaks in and takes over, and just the action. I've been watching a lot of Daredevil, of Reacher, of Peacemaker, all these different action films, John Wick, and this held its own with all of them.
Yeah.
The performances remind me of the actor who does the stunt work, James.
Crowder?
I obviously I'm going to edit this, so let's look it up.
It's Crowder, isn't it?
I don't remember.
Lateef Crowder?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, Lateef Crowder. Yeah.
I got it right here. I'm going to
make sure. His first name.
I know what he looks like. Yeah. Lateef Crowder is unparalleled in his action, in the way he performs, and he brings the panache and the nuance that Brendan Wayne does as well when they're in that suit. And everything blowing up that nasty Imperial commander that is clearly holding these people hostage and treating them poorly, not unlike what we've seen in Rebels or every other iteration of Imperial officers being intergalactic bullies. And the way Grogu assists in that, the constant tapping of Mando's helmet because those explosives are about to go off and he jumps up. He's rescued by Zeb and a U-Wing. I mean, that was perfection. And I wrote about this in my review, and I gave him credit. I'm going to give him credit now. But James has an excellent analogy for that opening sequence, which, again, I would put among the cooler action sequences in all of Star Wars. James, what did you think of that?
So I likened it to the start of a James Bond film. Because always at the start of a James Bond film, you get 15, 20 minutes of action where they're finishing the last adventure, and then he goes and sees M to get his mission, his next mission. And that's exactly what happened here. You've got Mando and Grogu finishing this mission, and then they go and see M, here played by Sigourney Weaver, Colonel Ward, and they go and get their next mission. And they go and get their gadgets, and this so happens to be the Razor Crest instead of, some of the spy gadgets that we've seen James Bond get over the years. So that's what I thought. There was a couple of moments with the AT-ATs, and I don't know whether people realized, where we're looking at the AT-AT from underneath in exactly the same pose from the original Quarry drawings from 76. And I love that. I thought that was obviously it's a nice little Easter egg, and they've obviously built that in. What I didn't like is that when the AT-AT, when Grogu and Mandalorian get in that and they start chasing down the hill, I felt that was a little bit too cartoony. It was going, I thought, far too quickly. We've seen these AT-ATs move before in Rebels and other things and Clone Wars, and they're quite clunky. They don't move particularly fast. So to then see that move as fast as it was, I was a bit, hold on a minute. Should it be going that quickly? I appreciate it's going down the slope, but it didn't feel quite right. That was one of the only visual effects where I thought, hold on a minute, is this right? But obviously when it got down to the AT-ATs and the action continued, it worked absolutely fine. But that, to me, was the only bit. But
okay, fair enough.
AT-ATs on a cliff like that, though. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah.
They're right for tipping over. I think that was like the most precarious place to put an AT-AT.
It was that was so fun. Well, you know, there's only one. The train had already left, and they needed to get across somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that was part of the fun, though, wasn't it? And that AT-RT that you're talking about, they had a life-size Lego of that at the premiere, which you could sit in and pose with. And that was pretty cool. So even though, yes, I saw kind of through the magic in that to a degree, it didn't take me out of it because it was just the fact that they were doing it, that they were actually doing it. It just sort of, when you look at how Luke takes down an AT-AT, which is still fun and thrilling, but he's an amateur. Man, it was no amateur. So the fact that they have that differentiation was really, really, really cool. If there's any other key moments you want to talk about that put a smile to your face you thought were thrilling, let's kind of talk about those now before we dive into some of the criticisms. Tom?
I'll just add on to what we've been talking about and how that opening sequence, it really took me back to the openings of both seasons. Those amazing sequences, and so much so that it built up within me. I don't know about the rest of my theater. We were in an IMAX, and it was so loud that I don't know if people cheered if I would have known it, but I became so amped up by that whole sequence that when they splashed the title across the front and then instantly go to the X-Wings in that like sunset sort of, I pumped my fist. I was just like, yeah. And my poor family sat next to me. But the thing I want to mention is just for us longtime fans, how cool was it to be inside an AT-AT for once?
Yes.
To see what it looks like inside there as a functioning piece of machinery. I mean, we get to look at the side, laying on its side with Rey and all that, but here it's a functioning one with soldiers on the inside. When he went inside, I thought that was just great. Something I'd always wanted to see.
James, what's in the? Oh yeah, go ahead, Cory.
Sorry, I was going to mention the scene where he walks into, I don't know, it's like a bounty hunter's bar or whatever it was to look for this contact, whoever he's looking for, and there's this. I looked up the list here. I think his name is Hog's Breath. He had the tusks that were coming down. He comes in and kind of talks him up, whatever, and he like cuts part of his tusk off. And I was like, that was cool. I mean, and then for the remainder of the movie, like I was missing that part of the cuss. I feel like that's just such a moment to build that character a little bit. Like he's, I don't know if he can grow that back or not. I don't know. But just like it shows the intensity of Mandalorian too. I think that he is not going to mess around with words. He's going to get right to the point. And certainly in that clip. And then how many times did he walk in a room and just take people out? He walked in the AT-AT. He kind of like had a hallway scene where he, like Daredevil, you said, like taking people out. The main sequence in the beginning, the bar scene, countless other scenes where he's just like multiple enemies at once and he's just rapid fire going off. So I think it's just really cool, really memorable.
That actor is the one whose hand I shook and told him he did a good job. And his hand, like I'm pretty sure when he shook his hand, his middle fingertip probably touched my elbow. He was huge. Yeah. James, what are some things that you loved about this movie that we haven't brought up yet?
Oh, what else did I like? I liked some of, Adelphi Base. Let's talk about Adelphi Base because that was great. It was great to see that again and to see it used. We'll talk about some of the criticism with some of the people that were in Adelphi Base a bit later potentially. But in terms of seeing that and being there, and the way that they used that was incredible. And they'd actually used some of the original props from Toshi Station within that scene, which I absolutely loved. I love that they were able to recommission those and bring those to another Star Wars film, like literally 50 years later. So I think that was incredible, and I love that. I thought the script was good. I thought they did a decent job with getting the story across. I think it worked well. Whether the story was the right story to tell is a different question, and maybe we'll pick that up later as well. But I liked what they did. I think it was the perfect film for the big screen that enabled it to do what it needed to do. And for me, if we go back to the original Star Wars film 50 years ago, that was George wanted to tell stories, episodic stories on the big screen. He likened it to, that Saturday morning matinee or that sort of adventure, Flash Gordon, etc. And that's exactly what this was. This was very much George's vision of bringing a piece of episodic content to the big screen. And I think it did what it needed to do.
Cory, is there anything that we haven't brought up yet that you'd like to discuss?
I was, like you said, all the aliens and all the creatures. I think everything was really Star Warsy. I saw a review of somebody saying they're not aliens, they're monsters. In Star Wars we get monsters. In Star Trek we get aliens. Star Wars has monsters. We have snake dragons and all these beings. And I feel like how much bigger can we get with these giant beings and things? And I'm always impressed with the fact that they've just done such great work on this. There's every little detail along the way. Like you said, it's stuffed full of Star Wars goodness. I mean, we couldn't get more, scene by scene of like, oh, that was from this, and oh, I see this. I'm sure there's so much they put into this film that we've just yet to pick through and choice through. So that's what I love about this. There's a great love of Star Wars in this film by these creators, and it's definitely felt.
Through a mythological lens, the dragon snake sequence, well, I mean, that's the Knight Against the Dragon. I mean, and he even on several occasions he uses an actual real sword as opposed to a lightsaber or a quote laser sword or the dark saber, which of course was smashed at the end of season 3. And that archetype played out on the big screen with gorgeous special effects. And then they added sort of suspense of Pedro Pascal inside like this big water tank. And it just felt extra perilous. Was really thrilling. Like, I didn't think that he was going to lose or die, but I knew he was in great peril, and I was fascinated to see how he was going to get out of it. It was a spectacular moment, and I thought, all of the effects in this thing and the sound were just so great. Like that is a very Star Wars aspect of this, which I absolutely loved so much.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is... yes.
And just like that, our journey through the galaxy for today has come to a close. Thank you for listening to part 1 of our lengthy review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. This week, we focused on all the things we loved about the film. And next week, we will look more closely at the criticisms and challenges we had with the movie, try to balance out the conversation. And I hope you will join us next week to listen to that. Thank you for listening to and supporting Coffee with Kenobi, where fans can come together to think, learn, and discuss this galaxy we all love. I'm truly grateful you chose to spend part of your day with me. A special thank you to our official travel partner, MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. Looking to plan your next magical vacation to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or even a Disney cruise? Want to explore Galaxy's Edge or attend Star Wars Celebration? Becky Mankin and her team will get you there with no cost, no obligation quotes, and the kind of peace of mind we all appreciate. Learn more at coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with your fellow Star Wars friends. You can find us on social media or visit coffeewithkenobi.com for articles, merch, and more ways to connect. Until next time, I'm Dan Zare, and this is the podcast you're looking for. For all things Star Wars, news, reviews, videos, and more, head to our home base, coffeewithkenobi.com. Don't forget to join the CWK Cafe on Facebook at coffeewithkenobi.com/community, our family-friendly, spoiler-free group for all your Star Wars thoughts, comments, and conversation. This podcast is possible thanks to the incredible support of the CWK Alliance. Want to help keep the show brewing? For as little as $1 a month, you can join the CWK Alliance and get access to CWK Pour-Over, our exclusive weekly audio and video podcast. Learn more at coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. And know this, 10% of your monthly contributions goes directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital. Want to connect? You can email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com. Follow me on X at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR, Instagram, Threads, at DanZerCWK, and Blue Sky. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can follow Coffee with Kenobi across social media on X, Instagram, Threads, Pinterest, and Blue Sky, and give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. And if you want to send an email to the show, you can email us feedback at coffeewithkenobi.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you'll find over 700 videos, including past live shows, events, and this podcast. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps more Star Wars fans find our little corner of the galaxy. Do you need a speaker for your next event? Visit danzmedia.com. I love to discuss mythology, leadership, storytelling, or create something tailored to your audience. And finally, grab your CWK gear at coffeewithkenobi.com/shop and show your support in style.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.